Yes, people, what's going on? It's Egal Talks Football, and I'm here back again with the wonderful, wonderful man himself, Kia, Football London's top journalist. Am I wrong? The chief journalist for Arsenal.
Well, if you like, I'll take it. That's very nice, Billy. Thank you very much.
There you go. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about everything Arsenal. Just before the January transfer window starts, we're about 26 days away from the January window starting. So no better time but to speak to you about everything going around with the January window, everything going around with Mykhaylo Mudryk, obviously unfortunate injury for Gabriel Jesus, and some more things going on. Bukayo Saka putting in masterclasses in the World Cup. We got Matt Turner putting in masterclasses in the World Cup. We got a bunch of our players performing out of their skin in the World Cup. And there's just so many talking points. But I think the one place where we have to begin is how are you? How have you been? And just how has your season been following Arsenal? Did I catch you off guard there? Because
No, I thought you were going to go straight in with the hard hitting questions. This is a nice one. Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. I've been really good. I've been enjoying following the team. I mean, I've not had to cover many losses, so that's always good.
yeah.
Trying to think of maybe 3 losses in the whole season, and I wasn't even there for the PSV game, so pretty happy with that. It's been good so far. Arsenal have been superb, and the best bit about it obviously is the winning, but the way they're playing is just it's so nice to watch, and having to see that week in week out. There's worse things in the world. I'll put it that way. It's been a very good season. I'm very happy. I'm very happy with how Arsenal are progressing. And
you know what? Every morning you got that morning coffee picture, and then we get a win. So you got to keep posting those pictures.
Exactly. Hope for hot chocolate for the win.
There you go. Now, moving away from the season, just looking forward to the remainder of the season. We have a couple of things that are going on. One, the World Cup. Two, we've had an injury to Gabriel Jesus. So, with us being at the top of the table right now, 5 points clear of Man City, going back into the second half of the season, are you kind of concerned that we now have one of our key players injured? And are you concerned that this is going to catch up to us? Because a lot of people have been saying Arsenal have been playing well, and I've been hearing two sides of the coin. Some people concerned, some people saying, you know what, we can still maintain it until he comes back, or we have the January window, we can find a way to maintain it. And what is your thoughts on this whole title charge thing? Do you believe it yet?
Do I believe it? 5 points clear at this stage of the season. You have to be considering it. I think beyond Manchester City, Arsenal are the only team who look like they could win the Premier League. So I think it's fair to say you can believe it will happen. It could happen, sorry. Not necessarily believe it will happen. I think anyone who supports Arsenal would be happy with the top 4. I think that was the goal at the start of the season, and anything beyond that is a bonus. So this title challenge is going really well, and everyone's really happy with it. And, I don't think anyone's going to be disappointed if Arsenal comes second. It's not going to be a case of, oh, this is terrible, everything went wrong just because Arsenal didn't finish top of the league. I think people will be relatively okay with that. And Gabriel Jesus, his injury does sort of put a dent in any potential title aspirations. Obviously, he's been transformative to the Arsenal attack in terms of what he's been able to do. So pressing, energy, intensity, the way he transmits his sort of approach to the game to the young members of the squad, he elevates all those around him. He's obviously a leader within this Arsenal squad. He's been named one of the 3 captains already, despite only joining in the summer. So, yeah, losing him for any period of time will be massive. It'll be a massive blow for Arsenal, and sort of those reports out of Brazil suggest it's going to be up to 3 months. Hopefully it won't be that long because Arsenal do need him back as much as possible. But there are solutions within the squad. They're not. None of them are ideal. Eddie Nketiah is a good player, and he showed towards the end of last season that if Arsenal really need him, he can be called upon. And 5 goals and 8 starts, you can't just ignore that. That was a decent run towards the end of the season, and it basically put Arsenal within a shot of the Champions League. So he can do it. He's obviously not as good as Jesus, and there's certain things he can't do, but there's also certain things that Jesus can't do, which Eddie can do in terms of finishing. Jesus obviously hasn't scored in the past 11 games. Eddie can bring a bit of goal scoring prowess into the team, and that's going to be massively welcome for Arsenal. So there's options. You talk about potentially moving Martinelli into the middle. They probably will look at signing a forward in January. I mean, that was already the plan, but they might look to bring someone forward. We'll see. And then it all sort of, it's something Arsenal are going to have to deal with. Throughout Mikel Arteta's time in charge, he's been thrown problem after problem after problem. If you look at the Mesut Ozil situation, you look at COVID, you look at behind closed doors games, you look at the Aubameyang situation, you look at barely having a striker last season and still almost coming top 4. I back him to be able to come up with a solution to this problem, even though it is obviously a huge blow for Arsenal to lose Gabriel Jesus for any period of
Let
time.
me just jump in here. Big up everyone watching right now. Do me a favor, hit that like button. Make sure you share this. Let everyone know we're live right now. Of course, if you're coming over from Twitter or wherever, make sure you do subscribe to the channel also. And if you want to check out Kia's Twitter page and also, of course, all the articles that he does, I'm gonna link his Twitter account to the description in the description. Now, talking about forwards, people are already talking about Vlahovic. We have some people talking about in the tweet. I put that we're leading the race for Mykhaylo Mudryk. That's what the reports are saying at this moment in time. Some people are even saying play Martinelli up front and get Mudryk in. What is your kind of solution for Jesus? And just before we even touch on Jesus, because I feel like everyone, that's the first thing they're thinking about. They're not even thinking about Jesus' injury. They're just kind of thinking about what is the solution. And I'm of the mind, don't panic yet. There's 2 games before the window, and then once the window opens, we can see where we can go. But yeah, what were you thinking?
Yeah, this World Cup, as much as it's brought about Gabriel Jesus' injury, it's a bit of a blessing in disguise in the sense that it offers Arsenal a lot of time to go out and do scouting, to make contacts, to do a lot of the groundwork, which they wouldn't necessarily have if they were focused on game by game by game. So that does help things a little bit for Arsenal. And obviously, they're out in Dubai now, focusing on warming up for the return of Premier League football and those 2 friendlies against Lyon and AC Milan. So that'd be the primary focus for Mikel Arteta. But Edu can look a little bit away. In terms of options within the squad, internal solutions, Eddie Nketiah, as we spoke about before, is there. There is an option to recall Flo Balogun. We've reported that on Football London, so possibly something, but I don't know if that will happen. I think he's doing really well out in France, and to recall him for what could be some limited game time, I don't think is necessarily the smartest move in the world. You're looking beyond that. Yeah, external solutions are a possibility. Arsenal will look to strengthen in January. Mikel Arteta's been having meetings with the Kroenkes this week. Eddie's been having meetings with the Kroenkes this week. I'm assuming that transfers would have come up. I'd be surprised if they didn't. So possibly you look outside. Yeah, someone mentioned Mudryk on the wing with Martinelli up top. That's an option. Arteta hasn't really loved playing Martinelli through the middle so far. So who knows? But there's options. There's plenty of options. He's even said Smith Rowe could play false 9. So there's plenty of options that Arsenal have. And I think we have to wait and see what the exact extent of this injury is for Gabriel Jesus. They're still undergoing tests. They're still seeing specialists, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully, I'm heading out to Dubai later this week. So hopefully I can bring you a bit more of a clear update from Mikel Arteta himself when I'm out there. But fingers crossed it's not as severe as some of the reports are suggesting. And if it is, Arsenal have plenty of time to come up with a solution. So it's not quite panic stations just yet.
You know what? When we first heard the reports of 3 weeks, I said to myself, that's not too bad. But now we're hearing 3 months potentially, more like 2 months actually, when you think about it. But in the same breath, it is a long time to me missing such a key player. I believe in Eddie Nketiah, and I believe that we can find some sort of solution in the meanwhile. But moving on to the January transfer window, do we change our plans or do we stick with the same plan going into the window now? Because some people are saying completely throw the winger out the window and sign a striker. Some people are saying, you know what, stick to the plan. Don't do any panic signings. Or you know what, if something potentially comes about, we could maybe get all 3 of the targets that we want.
I think we can say for certain that Arsenal won't do a panic signing. That's not their brand. We saw this last January where everyone was saying, you need to sign a striker, you need to sign a striker, you need to sign a striker. Vlahovic was linked, Calvert-Lewin, Isak, they were all linked. And obviously none of them came about because Arsenal wanted to wait for the right guy. And Mikel Arteta has reiterated that. He said, it has to be the right guy. I'd personally be quite surprised if they go out and sign a direct backup at a centre forward, just because I think if you look at the squad and its makeup at the minute, the centre forward position is relatively stacked. We've spoken about Balogun out on loan. There's Nketiah, who they just signed on a 5-year contract. Obviously, Gabriel Jesus as well. So there's options. And I'd be surprised if they go out and sign an out-and-out centre forward. Maybe another wide player, maybe someone who's capable of playing across the forward line. I think that makes more sense. And I think that's what Arsenal will look to do. So, no, I don't think they'll go out and get a number 9. Specifically, the plan was always to bring in a forward around January, potentially just to boost things. And if that player is available, Arsenal will definitely try and buy him. They're in a position where if they need to sign players, I think they're able to. Financially, there's not those kind of issues. Arteta has said there's no financial fair play problems. So they could do it. I don't think they'll sign a number 9 out and out because I think Arsenal have progressed beyond that in terms of the squad. But a forward, the guy who can play on either wing, potentially up front if needed, that's definitely a possibility. Because if Jesus is out for 3 months, Eddie can't play every single game until that time. So you do need a little bit of backup, and possibly a forward would be a sensible solution.
True. Just to quickly touch on some other rumors that are floating about. There's the one with Danilo. Any information on that? Because I keep hearing that he's going to be potentially going to Europe no matter what. Either Lyon and all these other clubs are also interested in him.
Yeah, there's interest. Arsenal have shown interest. What I heard in the summer was that it was impossible then because Palmeiras didn't want to sell in the middle of their title charge, which made sense. You know, he was a key player for them, and they've gone on to win the Brazilian league now. Now that it's sort of the off season in Brazil, then maybe we can start to look at a potential deal. And they said the people I was speaking to in the summer, you know, possibly revisit in January. So maybe Arsenal will look to go back in. It depends where they decide their priority is, to be honest. If they decide that they really need a forward and they need to put all their eggs in that basket, maybe they'll prioritise that, and other teams might be able to get a March. But Danilo is a player who Arsenal have shown interest in, and you know we'll see if that materialises.
There's also a rumor that I've seen today, and I've seen it so many times. I'm gonna bring him up. Leroy Sane. There's there's always links to Leroy Sane, and it just seems to never go away. Do you think there's any legs to any of these rumors?
I'd be very surprised if Arsenal went out and got Leroy Sane. I think that mostly comes from the Mykhaylo Arteta connection. Obviously, they've worked together at Manchester City, and people are putting two and two together and getting five. I think you know, never say never with the transfer window. It's always got ability to surprise you, but the wages he would require, the transfer fee that would require, and also for Bayern to sell, I don't think it's going to happen myself.
Okay. Let's just quickly shift over to Dubai. You're gonna be headed there yourself soon.
Yeah.
Just let us know what is going to be going on in Dubai. How are people going to even watch these games, and what days are the fixtures and everything?
Ooh, in terms of watching the games, I'm not 100% sure. I think they'll be on the Arsenal website, but I will find out for you, and I'll put them on my Twitter, so you can follow me at Kaynak97, and I'll be able to give you as much information as possible there. The games are on Thursday against Lyon, and then Tuesday against AC Milan, and there's going to be open training sessions in between, so we'll be bringing you coverage of that on Football.London. I'm pretty sure we're the only people heading out there, apart from one other outlet, so keep an eye on our stuff while we're out there. And yeah, it's going to be good for Arsenal. They're already out there. They're already training. They're already at the same complex they were at last January, which is I've forgotten the name now, I'm afraid. But it's in Dubai. They're going to be doing warm weather training out there. Mykhaylo Arteta's going to have them working very hard. It's going to be an intense schedule from what I've heard. They really want to build these players up very quickly because they've had a couple of weeks off. They've been at London Colney. They had that pre-season friendly behind closed doors against Watford, which obviously they lost. And now they want to start building back up towards the start of the Premier League season. And we saw in the summer how important pre-season was when Arsenal were able to build momentum. They played the same team 3 games in a row, and that team was the one that started the Premier League season and has more or less carried on with a few changes until now. So I think Mykhaylo Arteta takes pre-season very, very seriously, and I wouldn't be surprised if he sees some very strong Arsenal teams. Also, potentially an exciting time for some of the young players who have travelled, the likes of Lino Souza, Ruel Walters, who was involved in the summer, Ethan Waneri, who we all know about, another midfielder, very young guy, Miles Lewis Skelly, only 16. Arsenal are very excited about him. So lots of great talents who have travelled out to Dubai and plenty of young players to keep an eye on. But I think Mykhaylo Arteta will probably go strong, and that's what we can expect to see out there.
Yeah, I did see the list, and when you go down and down closer to the bottom of the list, it seems like more academy players that a lot of fans might not be too familiar with. Now, shifting away quickly from Dubai, there are players that are currently in Qatar for the World Cup. Might I add, some of those players have been knocked out or have had to come back for personal reasons, such as Ben White having to come back for personal reasons, Gabriel Jesus having to come back due to injury, and then you have Thomas Partey who has already been knocked out. Now, with Martinelli, Tomiyasu, Saliba, Xhaka, Matt Turner already also got knocked out, Saka and Ramsdale. What's Arsenal's plan for these players once the World Cup is done? Are they going to get a break, or are they going to be fit in time to play against West Ham? What do you think? How do you think they're going to
hard
approach
to
it?
give you a general answer because obviously every individual player is playing a different number of minutes. So someone like an Aaron Ramsdale, for example, isn't going to need as much rest as someone like a Bukayo Saka who's been playing every single game for England. So Arsenal are going to cater the individual training programs to each individual player, the amount of minutes they play, the amount of time off they need. Also, it depends when England go out, or when France go out, or whoever goes out. Obviously, as someone who's half English and has got a vested interest in England in this World Cup, I'm hoping they go all the way, and I'm hoping they make it to the final on December 18th, which is one day after Arsenal played their final pre-season friendly against Juventus. You would assume if they do get that far, then probably Bukayo Saka will need a bit of a rest before playing again on Boxing Day, which is only just over a week after. So you think they'll need a little bit of time off. But generally, the plan has been to give players a little bit of time off and then bring them back and start working them straight away. And to be honest, that's just the way it's going to have to be. A lot of those players who've been playing throughout the World Cup probably will be match fit anyway. They won't have stopped. If you look at a normal season, they don't stop this time of year. They stop towards the end of the season. So it's pretty standard for them. I would be surprised if they get a massive break that you normally do at the end of the World Cup. I think, the players who reach the latter stages will get a couple of days off and then they'll be straight back into the thick of things. And it's going to be demanding. It's going to be difficult for a lot of those players, but that's just the way it is. And to be fair, the only one consistently playing, I'd probably say, is Bukayo Saka. Tell me if I'm wrong. But Granit Xhaka as well, maybe. But I wouldn't expect him to make it to the latter stage of the competition. So, Saliba's been on the bench for France. Ramsdale's obviously on the bench. Tomiyasu's been in and out for Japan. Matt Turner, of course, but he's gone out now. So there's not too many Arsenal players who have played loads of minutes. So thankfully for Arsenal.
It benefits us.
Exactly.
But you know what? This is where things go. I need to ask you, do you think the Arsenal board and everybody are kind of looking at this season and saying, you know what, we have an opportunity to actually win the title? And hence why we're seeing Edu and these guys with the Kroenkes maybe trying to persuade them into doing more action. Because in America, they had the Rams and they were very aggressive chasing that Super Bowl. Could they do the same thing with Arsenal in the January transfer window?
Yeah, the Kroenkes have suggested whenever you hear from them, the suggestions always are, look, we want to win big things with Arsenal. And they've always said it. And in the past, it's been difficult to believe because they haven't been able to back those words up with actions. But this time around, they're backing those words up with the amount of money they're spending in the transfer window. They spent a lot over the past 2 summers. Not every team has done that. In fact, that's very high if you look across the Premier League and across Europe. So Arsenal are investing, and they're investing smart. They're investing in young players who will have a high resale value in the future. And obviously, the financial results came out this week, and the aim stated in that was to create a self-sustaining model. But I think the Kroenkes are fully aware that in order to do that, they're going to need to spend a bit of money to get Arsenal back in the Champions League, challenging for the big trophies. And that's a huge part of it. If you look at the Rams you mentioned there, they went big on a young coach in Sean McVay, I want to say is his name. You correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I don't know.
Sorry?
The LA Rams coach. I've forgotten his name.
Sean McVay.
Yeah, Sean McVay. Fantastic. Yeah, so they've invested big in a young coach. They've invested heavily in the squad. And that obviously, or roster, as you guys say in America, and that obviously has improved the LA Rams' chances of winning a Super Bowl. And they've done pretty similar at Arsenal. And, they want to, obviously, at the end of the day, they are business owners and they do want Arsenal to be generating a profit. But they're fully aware of the fact that in order to do that, Arsenal need to be at the top end of football, both in the Premier League and in Europe. So I don't think they're afraid to spend. I don't think they're afraid to back the board. They trust Edu, they trust Arteta. And I think, if they are able to present a good enough case to the Kroenkes that funds need to be released, then the Kroenkes will have no issue with standing in the way of that.
Do you think in the back of their minds, it's similar to last season where they're like, you know what, we have an opportunity to win the league? Or is it too early to think that way?
I don't know. I think they'll probably be thinking about it. I mean, they'd be crazy not to, wouldn't they? I mean, the chances like this don't come along very often. Realistically, when you look at the last time Arsenal were in a title race like this time of the year, maybe 07, 08. So it's been a long time for Arsenal. And they surely will be thinking about investing in January. Whether they do or not, we'll have to see.
Would they also be thinking about the losses they made? Because you mentioned the losses. Would they be thinking about the losses and they're like, you know what, now we're going to potentially be going in the Champions League. Maybe we can invest a little bit more now?
Yeah, that loss was obviously affected by the fact that there was no European football. And I think they've invested heavily now in the squad to make sure there is European football again. And that is a big thing for the Kroenkes getting in Europe. We always hear them talking about the Champions League. And you would assume that Arsenal are probably going to make Champions League football now. You can never say never, but I think they're 15 points clear of the team in 5th. So their chances of qualifying for the Champions League are very, very high. So, yeah, it's looking good in terms of that. I don't think they'll be too concerned about the losses. Obviously, they'll be wanting to generate profits in the long term. But I think if you do look at Arsenal and if you do look at the fact that young players who are on long-term contracts are the players who will start to be sold now. So, I don't know, let's just pick someone out of a hat for argument's sake. Sambi Lokonga, I'm not saying he's going to be sold at all, but if he wanted to move on and Arsenal were happy to let him go, they've got him 3 years left on his contract. He's a young guy, Belgian international, captain Anderlecht, played European football for Arsenal. They'd be able to invest and demand quite a high fee for him, and that would be big.
You know what? You just reminded me about contracts. We have 3 stars that we need to worry about their contracts quite a bit. We got Gabriel Martinelli, who the Brazilian media have been raving about. Saliba, who's one of the highest rated center backs in world football, but he hasn't really been getting too much game time with France. And then you have Bukayo Saka, who, in my opinion, has been the best right winger in the World Cup and has 3 goals already in the top 10 goal scorers England all time in the World Cup. Like, this is mad. Let me know. What do you think is going to happen with their contracts? Because you keep hearing that it's close.
Yeah, Martinelli is an interesting one in the sense that Arsenal have the option to extend by a further 2 years. It expires in 2024, but they have a 2-year extension option, which means technically it's 2026. That doesn't mean that Arsenal will let it run until that time. It just means that they'll be able to sort of put it off if they need to, and they have a stronger negotiating stance. With Saliba and Saka, it's slightly different, where they expire in 2023, but they have the option to extend by a year, making it 2024. So you'd assume they'll do that and then look to go from there. That does make things a little bit difficult in terms of the extension. Saka wants to stay. Arsenal want him to stay. So that feels like one that should be relatively easy to do. And if you look at where he might go instead, I don't know, Liverpool, probably you don't want to be moving there from Arsenal right now. Manchester City, yes, that's a tempting prospect, but does he want to go to Manchester City and be just another player, or does he want to stay at Arsenal and be a superstar? And that's the question he has to deal with. His agents are very savvy. It's the same agent as Flo Balogun and Eddie Nketiah. They know how these transfer negotiations work, and Eddie's obviously very familiar with them as well. So that is one that could go down to the wire, but I would expect it to be sorted. I think he wants to stay and Arsenal want to keep him. Saliba is a little bit more, I guess, up in the air, because he probably will want to see how things progress, and he will want to see how what his stature is within sort of world football. After this World Cup, if he comes home a World Cup winner, he'll obviously be able to demand a lot more money, and I think that'll be a big part of negotiations. But again, Arsenal are they're quietly confident in all three cases, and hopefully, they'll be able to get those deals over the line, because William Saliba is, I think, going to be the best defender in the world. I think Bukayo Saka is up there as well, and I think Gabriel Martinelli is hugely talented. So I think there's 3 players that they need to tie down, and hopefully they'll be able to do that.
Yeah, and we're just going to keep this to half an hour. So anyone who has any questions, throw those questions in now. But because we only got like 8 minutes left. But I'm going to say this. Thank you for watching so far. Make sure you hit the like button if you've gotten this far in the video. And also make sure you check out Kia's socials. His links are in the description, and mine, of course, also. And if you're here, you might as well subscribe, because I'm going to be covering Arsenal transfer content on the YouTube end and on the TikTok end throughout the whole transfer window. But I'm just going to say one more thing. Before we go on to some of the questions that people might ask, there's so many names floating around. Could you just debunk some of these names for us, if you think if they're even possible? Like Declan Rice. I heard about Declan Rice rumors. It sounds ridiculous to me. Jude Bellingham. I keep hearing about Jude Bellingham rumors. I keep hearing about all these rumors about players that I just feel like financially would cost us a ridiculous amount of money. Do you think there's any legs to any of these rumors?
No, personally, but you can never say never in the transfer window. Obviously, it'd be fantastic if Arsenal are able to get them, but if you're looking at Arsenal's model and their funding, then maybe young players, English, kind of makes sense. But Arsenal probably won't look to go for those guys. In fairness, Bellingham and Rice are 2 positions where Arsenal could look to strengthen. That number 6 and that number 8, they definitely could look to strengthen in that position, but I don't see it happening myself. I think there's teams out there who can offer much more favourable packages to both players, and teams out there who can offer potentially more exciting opportunities. But that's not to say that Arsenal wouldn't ever be in the race for them. I just say it's very unlikely that they'll be able to get you.
What about the Frankfurt duo that we were linked to, ndicka and also Odegaard's teammate? I forget his name right now, but he's also like he's a midfielder. Lindstrom, yeah.
I think he's Danish, actually, Lindstrom, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, my apologies. Yeah.
No worries. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah. Lindstrom, I have to say I don't know much about, unfortunately. I haven't really heard his name in conversations. I haven't really looked into that as much. And ndicka is a player who shares an agent with Nicola Pepe, so Arsenal know, formerly with Nicola Pepe, so Arsenal know that sort of branch, I guess, of the market. Edu has that relationship there, so they've dealt with each other before. It would technically make sense. I mean, he's a left-footed centre-back. Arsenal need a left-footed centre-back. He's out of contract in the summer. So, yeah, Arsenal are keeping tabs on them according to reports, and those have come from reliable sources. So I believe in those reports. I think we'll just have to wait and see on him. I think maybe if the forward hadn't become such a priority now with Jesus' injury, and if midfield wasn't such a priority, you could look at a left-footed centre-back, because it's clear that Arsenal do need maybe one more centre-back. Tomiyasu is quite injury-prone, and obviously Ben White can play there too, but I think Arteta likes his left-footed centre-backs on the left side. We see that with Gabriel. So I think if he can go out and get one, he definitely will try to. And also Ndicka has played left back as well, so that's another sort of string to the bow.
Cover for Partey. What do you think the club's gonna do in that situation? Because I know El Neni just came back. Are they gonna view it as he's the cover for now, or are they gonna try to solve that now before the
Well,
season?
El Neni's a player who's really liked within the squad. His contract technically expires at the end of this year, but he's got the option for a 1-year extension. And maybe Arsenal will look to sort of kick that can down the road a little bit if they don't feel they can find the right number 6 to play back up for Partey in the long term. I think El Neni is good enough to do a lot of the things that Partey can do out of possession in terms of defensive games. And if you're looking to maybe, I think,
Win the league.
yeah, if you're looking to win the league, maybe you'll need someone who's a bit better on the ball. But I think El Neni's a decent enough backup. He's great around the squad. He's a leader within the dressing room. You know, Arteta loves him, standards and all that kind of stuff, professionalism, etc. So El Neni is a player who is highly valued, and I think they view him as someone who could potentially be a backup. But they're not blind to the fact that in the long run they do need to invest. El Neni's obviously, I think, 30, Partey's 29, so they need to look to freshen up that position with a younger player. So yeah, I think that'll be on the agenda. A young player, Danilo, who we mentioned before, is only 21. Plenty of other players who've been linked to are all quite young. So yeah, Arsenal should look to invest in that number 6 position. I'd be surprised if they didn't.
Is there anything that you think could surprise us in the transfer window? Because like a right back, any position that Arsenal aren't really looking at that we might be looking at come the new year?
Now, right back, I'd be very surprised by. I think they've got enough right backs in that position. No, to be honest, I think Arsenal's transfer stuff is pretty predictable, and that's not a bad thing. That means they've just planned things well. That means the squad planning has gone really well. They don't need to desperately go out and strengthen in any position. They just can do it, and they probably should. But I don't think they're going into a transfer market desperate to sign a player like last season, where you felt they were desperate to sign a centre forward, which meant that clubs could charge them exorbitant amounts of money. This season, they seem to know what they're doing. Well, they knew what they were doing last season, but this season they seem to have a very clear idea of the squad, and there's a lot of depth in there. So, yeah, I don't see any surprises coming. But again, as I've said, it's almost all your answers. I'm afraid you can never say never in the transfer window.
That's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just gonna leave you with this. If we come back to new season, we face West Ham, we face Brighton. Do you think Arsenal is going to do as they always do and leave it for late in the window? Because I don't think we're going to have the signings ready and to go at the beginning of the window. And you know what? A lot of fans have high expectations for the club to get stuff done quite quickly. But you know what? I know how Arsenal work, and I don't expect that personally.
But you say what they always do. In fairness, in the summer, they got all their business done quite early. Zinchenko, Jesus, Turner, Marquinhos, Vieira all came before the end of July. So they can do business early. They want to do business early if they can, but sometimes deals just take a long time, and sometimes these things can be difficult to arrange. So we'll see. If it lasts a long time and Arsenal get the right player, then I think everyone will be fine with that. But in fairness, I think there's 9 or 10 games in January. So Arsenal will probably want to get a deal done as quickly as possible if they're going to look to sort of give their squad the depth that they definitely need.
Yeah, we got like 2 minutes left, guys. So just throw in your questions if you can. Do you think Arsenal will make a loan signing?
I'd be surprised. I think they're looking, in terms of the transfers they want to bring in, they look for long-term signings now. It's no more stopgaps. We've seen in the past when sort of Matt Ryan, for example, a loan signing, his name's just in my mind because of the Argentina mistake. So players like that.
Dennis Suarez.
Dennis Suarez, Kim Kallstrom, all those kind of players. I think those days are kind of behind Arsenal now. Their squad planning is good enough that they don't need a lone player. So no.
Do you think Arsenal would ever go after Ismail Assar from Watford? He's doing quite well for Senegal.
Yeah, I mean, he's been linked in the past. I couldn't say no. I think he was linked to Arsenal when he was at Rennes. Yeah, possibly. I mean, he's only across the fence at London Colney, so it'd be an easy transfer to do. But I haven't heard anything concrete to suggest that they will. That's not to say they wouldn't. I just haven't heard anything.
I think people worry about his end product, Mohammed, if that's what you're saying. But yeah, honestly, Kia, I really do appreciate you coming on. Do you have any projects or anything going around that you want to let people know about?
Dubai is coming up. Dubai coverage, all of that stuff. So from the 7th till the 14th, I'm going to be out there, bring you all the Arsenal pre-season build-up, everything I can in terms of any injury news from Gabriel Jesus, any transfer stuff that we can get out of Mikel Arteta, although he's very tight-lipped on those kind of questions. So we'll see what we can get from him, and hopefully it will work out to be a very nice trip.
There you go. And also, guys, make sure you go follow him on Twitter. You can see all the articles and everything he drops on there. And also, he has the links to all his other socials there. Also, the link to that is in the description. And of course, hopefully, if you've enjoyed this video, you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned for more. Thank you, Kia, for jumping on and giving us your insight on Arsenal. And thank you, everyone, for watching. Have a great day.